I want to be very clear about something before I tell this story. I am not a paranoid person. I don't scare easily. I've traveled alone through Central America. I've lived in cities where you learn to sleep through sirens. I have a high tolerance for discomfort, and an even higher one for being afraid. What happened to me in that lake house in the Poconos in October of 2022 broke all of that. It rewired something inside me. I check locks now. I check them twice. I check them a third time, and then I stand there staring at the door wondering if I missed something. I didn't used to be like this. This is what that house did to me. My friend Claire and I booked the place for a long weekend. It was a 3-bedroom cabin on the edge of a private lake about 2 hours north of Philadelphia. The listing had over 100 reviews and a 4.9 rating. The photos showed a beautiful A-frame with a wraparound deck and big windows overlooking the water. The host had superhost status and responded to our booking within minutes with a friendly message and a digital guidebook. Everything about it screamed legitimate. We arrived on a Thursday evening around 7. The cabin was at the end of a long gravel driveway that cut through dense woods. The nearest neighbor was probably a quarter mile away. We couldn't see any other houses from the property. When we pulled up, the porch light was on and the door was unlocked just like the host said it would be. We walked in and the place was gorgeous. Open floor plan, vaulted ceilings, a stone fireplace. The kitchen was stocked with coffee and wine, and a little welcome basket with snacks and a handwritten note. We dropped our bags and immediately poured ourselves glasses of wine and went out to the deck to watch the last bit of sunset over the lake. I remember standing there thinking, this is perfect. The first night was fine. We stayed up late talking and drinking by the fireplace and went to bed around 1. I took the master bedroom on the main floor, and Claire took one of the rooms upstairs. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. No traffic, no neighbors. Just the occasional sound of something moving in the trees outside. I fell asleep quickly. I woke up around 3:30. Not because of a noise, because of a feeling. That feeling you get when something is wrong but you can't point to what it is. Like the air pressure changed. I lay there for a minute staring at the ceiling. Then I heard it. A faint electronic hum. Very quiet. Coming from somewhere above me. I assumed it was the HVAC system or a smoke detector running low on battery. I rolled over and went back to sleep. The next morning I forgot about it completely. Claire and I spent the day hiking a trail near the lake and then drove into the nearest town for lunch. When we got back, I took a shower. The bathroom connected to the master bedroom was small but nice. Tiled walls, a glass shower door, a vanity with a round mirror. While I was drying off, I noticed something on the ceiling above the shower. A small black disc about the size of a quarter recessed into the ceiling tile. It was positioned directly above the shower head. At first I thought it was a ventilation port or a humidity sensor. But when I stood on the edge of the tub and looked closer, I saw the unmistakable glint of a lens. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I just stood there dripping wet, staring at this tiny camera embedded in the ceiling of the shower. My brain went through about 15 thoughts in 2 seconds. How long has that been there? Was it recording when I showered last night? Who is watching? Where is the feed going? I grabbed a towel and covered myself and backed out of the bathroom. I told Claire. She didn't believe me at first. She thought I was being dramatic. Then she stood on the tub and looked at it herself. She went white. We spent the next hour going through every room in the house. We found 2 more. One in the master bedroom mounted inside the smoke detector on the ceiling, and one in the upstairs bedroom where Claire had been sleeping hidden behind a small decorative vent on the wall. 3 cameras, all in private spaces, all positioned to capture exactly what you'd expect someone to want to capture in a bedroom and a bathroom. If this story is making you rethink your next Airbnb booking, good, it should. Drop a like and a comment if you've ever found something suspicious in a rental. Let's continue. We called the police. 2 officers arrived about 40 minutes later. They inspected the cameras and confirmed that all 3 were active and connected to the home's Wi-Fi network. One of the officers told us that based on the setup, the cameras were streaming live to an external device or a cloud account, not recording locally. Streaming, which meant someone was potentially watching in real time. That word hit me like a physical blow. Real time. I thought about the shower I took 20 minutes before we found the first camera. I thought about standing under the water with my eyes closed, completely relaxed, completely vulnerable. And somewhere on the other end of a Wi-Fi signal, someone was watching me, not a recording they would watch later. Live in the moment. While I was rinsing shampoo out of my hair, someone was looking at me on a screen. I felt sick. Claire had to sit down. The officers contacted Airbnb and the host. The host's response was immediate and calculated. He claimed he had no knowledge of the cameras and suggested that a previous guest must have installed them. The officers didn't buy it, and neither did we. The cameras were professionally installed, recessed into ceiling tiles and hidden behind fixtures. This wasn't some cheap spy cam from Amazon stuck to a shelf with double-sided tape. These were built into the structure of the house by someone who knew what they were doing. Someone who had cut holes in the ceiling and run wires through the walls and tested sight lines to make sure the angles captured exactly what he wanted to capture. The host was eventually identified as the property owner, a 46-year-old man who lived about 30 minutes away. He was brought in for questioning. His phone and laptop were seized. I was told later by the detective assigned to the case that the devices contained recordings going back over 8 months, hundreds of hours of footage, dozens of guests, couples, families, solo travelers, all filmed without their knowledge in the most private moments of their stay. He was charged and the listing was removed. But here's the part that still gets to me. The reviews. Over 100 5-star reviews. Beautiful cabin. Perfect getaway. So peaceful and private. We'll definitely be back. All those people, all those glowing reviews, none of them knew. They showered and changed and slept in that house thinking they were alone, thinking the locked door and the secluded location meant they had privacy. And somewhere 30 minutes away, a man was watching, for 8 months, sitting in his house, on his couch maybe, watching strangers undress in a cabin they paid him $300 a night to use. I think about that sometimes. How many of those reviewers would rewrite their review if they knew what was in their ceiling? How many of them still don't know? Airbnb refunded our stay and gave us a credit, as if a credit could fix what that man took from every single person who walked through that door. I haven't used the platform since. I don't think I ever will. And every hotel room I've stayed in since then, I spend the first 10 minutes inspecting the smoke detectors and the vents and the mirrors. Claire does the same thing. We never talked about developing that habit. We just both started doing it, like a reflex we didn't ask for.
In the summer of 2023, I rented a basement apartment through Craigslist. I know Craigslist. You'd think by now I would have known better, but the listing looked normal. It was a legal basement suite in a residential house with its own entrance and its own bathroom. The rent was reasonable. The photos showed a clean space with a small kitchen area and a bedroom and a living room. The landlord was a woman named Diane who lived upstairs. She seemed perfectly nice when I met her. She was in her mid-50s, short, glasses, spoke quietly. She reminded me of a librarian. The kind of person you'd never look twice at. I signed a month-to-month lease and moved in on a Saturday. The apartment had a private entrance on the side of the house, which I accessed through a short set of concrete steps leading down from the driveway. Inside, there was a main room that served as both the living room and kitchen, then a short hallway leading to the bedroom and the bathroom. The ceilings were low, 7 feet maybe. The windows were those narrow horizontal ones near the ceiling that let in a strip of daylight. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. I set up my desk and my TV, and for the first couple weeks, everything was completely fine. Diane and I barely interacted. I'd hear her footsteps above me sometimes, soft shuffling. She seemed to go to bed early. The house was usually silent by 9. The first thing I noticed was the temperature. The apartment was always cold, even in July. The thermostat in the hallway showed 72, but it never felt like 72. I'd sit on the couch in a hoodie while the air outside was 90 degrees. I figured it was a basement thing. Cold floors, no direct sunlight, poor insulation. I bought a space heater and moved on. The second thing I noticed was the door. There was a door at the end of the hallway past the bedroom that I assumed was a closet. I tried it on move-in day and it was locked. I asked Diane about it, and she said it was just storage and that she kept it locked because it connected to the upstairs through a staircase. She said she used to use the basement as an extension of her own living space before she converted it into a rental. The staircase was just left over. Made sense. I forgot about it. About 3 weeks in, I started hearing sounds at night, soft thuds from behind that locked door, like someone was on the staircase, not walking down, just standing on one of the steps and shifting their weight. I'd hear one thud, then silence for 5 or 10 minutes. Then another. I told myself it was the house settling or Diane moving around upstairs and the sound carrying through the staircase. Old houses are noisy. Basements amplify everything. I was rationalizing. I know that now. But at the time, I just didn't want to believe what some part of me already suspected. One night around 2 in the morning, I woke up to a different sound. Not a thud, a click. The faint mechanical click of a lock turning. I lay in bed and listened. I heard the creak of a door opening slowly. Then footsteps, not from above me, from the hallway. From behind the door I had been told was just storage. Someone had unlocked it from the other side and was now standing in my hallway. I didn't move. I could see the hallway from my bed through the open bedroom door. The hallway was dark, but there was just enough ambient light from the window to see shapes. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Small, still, standing in front of the now open door. It was Diane. She was wearing a bathrobe. She stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Then she walked down the hallway toward the bathroom, my bathroom. She went inside. I heard the faucet turn on, then off, then the toilet flushed. She walked back down the hallway. Through the door, I heard it close. I heard the lock click. I lay there until morning, trying to process what had just happened. My landlord had a key to a door that connected directly to my apartment. She had come down in the middle of the night and used my bathroom, like it was hers, like I wasn't there, like this was something she did regularly. The more I thought about it, the more the other details started falling into place. The cold apartment. Maybe the temperature was low because someone kept opening a door to an unheated staircase. The thuds at night. Maybe those weren't the house settling. Maybe it was someone standing on the stairs listening, waiting, deciding whether to come down. I installed a camera in my hallway the next day, a small wireless one, pointed directly at the storage door. I didn't tell Diane. That night, I watched the footage the next morning. At 1:47 a.m., the door opened. Diane walked through. She went to the bathroom, used it, came back, closed the door, locked it. The night after that, the same thing, same time, same routine. But on the third night, something different happened. She came through the door at the usual time, but instead of going to the bathroom, she walked to my bedroom door, and she stood there in the doorway of my room, watching me sleep. For 4 minutes and 31 seconds. I know the exact duration because I watched the footage frame by frame. 4.5 minutes of a woman standing in my doorway in the dark staring at me while I slept. Her face was calm. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She didn't move. She just watched. Then she turned and walked back through the door and locked it behind her. I moved out the next day. I didn't confront her. I didn't explain. I just packed everything into my car while she was out and left the key on the counter. She texted me that evening asking if everything was all right. I didn't respond. She texted again the next day, and the messages got longer, more desperate. She said she was sorry if she had done something to upset me. She said I was the best tenant she ever had. She said the apartment felt empty without me. I blocked her number. I reported the situation to the police, but they told me that since Diane owned the property and the door was part of the structure, it was a civil matter and not a criminal one. They said I could pursue it through housing court if I wanted to. I didn't. I just wanted to never think about that basement again, but I do. Every night when I close my eyes and the room gets dark, I think about that footage. 4 minutes and 31 seconds, standing in my doorway, watching me breathe.
My girlfriend and I booked a cabin through Airbnb for New Year's Eve 2023. It was in the mountains about 3 hours from where we live, a small one-bedroom place with a hot tub on the back deck and a fireplace inside. We arrived on the 30th and planned to leave on the 1st. 2 nights. The listing said the property was remotely managed, no in-person check-in. The lockbox code was sent via the app. The nearest town was about 20 minutes away. We were surrounded by trees and silence, exactly what we wanted. The first night was perfect. We made dinner, sat in the hot tub, watched the stars, went to bed early. The next night was New Year's Eve. We popped a bottle of champagne at midnight and kissed on the deck. The whole thing felt like a movie. By 1 in the morning, we were both in bed and asleep. I woke up around 4. I needed water. I walked out to the kitchen and filled a glass. As I was standing at the sink, I looked out the window above it. The window faced the driveway. There was a truck parked at the end of the driveway. It wasn't ours. It wasn't there when we went to bed. I stood there with the glass in my hand, staring at it. It was a dark pickup, older model, no lights on, no one inside that I could see. I told myself maybe it was the property owner checking on the place, or a neighbor who parked in the wrong driveway, or someone who pulled in to turn around and just hadn't left yet. At 4 in the morning, on New Year's, I put the glass down and went back to bed. I didn't tell my girlfriend. I didn't want to ruin the trip. The next morning, I looked out the window first thing. The truck was gone. I felt relieved. I told myself I had been right. Someone just turned around. We packed up and cleaned the cabin. Checkout was at 11. We were out by 10:45. I loaded the car, and my girlfriend did one last sweep inside to make sure we hadn't left anything. She came back out and said she found something weird in the bedroom closet. I asked what. She said there was a sleeping bag on the floor, rolled out, with a pillow, like someone had been sleeping in there. We hadn't opened that closet once during our stay. We had no reason to. Our bags stayed on the luggage rack. We never touched the closet door. I went back inside and looked. She was right. A dark green sleeping bag laid out flat on the closet floor, a small pillow at the top, a water bottle with the cap off sitting next to it, and a phone charger plugged into the outlet on the wall with a cord coiled on the floor. Someone had been sleeping in the closet of the cabin we were staying in. I looked at the charger. It was warm. It had been in use recently. The water bottle wasn't dusty. It was fresh. The closet was maybe 4 feet deep and 5 feet wide, big enough for a person to lie down in. The door had no lock, just a basic knob. If you opened it from the outside, you'd see whoever was in there immediately. But we never opened it. We never had a reason to, and whoever was inside knew that. I called the Airbnb host immediately. He picked up on the second ring. I told him what we found. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. He said the cabin had a history of break-ins. He said there was a man in the area who had been caught sleeping inside vacant rental properties during the off-season. He said the man was harmless, a local with mental health issues who just needed somewhere warm. He said it like it was supposed to make me feel better. I asked him why he didn't mention this in the listing or in his welcome message. He didn't have a good answer. I asked him if the man was harmless, then why was there a truck in the driveway at 4 in the morning? He didn't have an answer for that either. I hung up and stood in the doorway of that closet, looking at the sleeping bag. My girlfriend was behind me. Neither of us said anything for a while. Then she said something that hit me like a freight train. She said we were in bed for 8 hours last night. The bedroom door was open. The closet is 6 feet from the bed. If someone was in there, they would have heard us talking. They would have heard us breathing. They would have been lying in the dark 6 feet away from us, listening to everything. For 8 hours. The closet door was closed when we woke up, which means whoever was in there didn't leave while we were sleeping. They waited until we got up. They waited until we were in the kitchen or the bathroom, and then they left, while we were still in the cabin, while we were packing. While my girlfriend was doing her last sweep, they could have still been in there. She might have opened that closet door and come face to face with whoever had been lying on that floor all night. We reported it to the police. They came out and dusted the closet for prints, but I never heard back about the results. An officer took photos and asked us a lot of questions. He asked if we heard anything unusual during the night. I thought about it and realized that at one point around 3 in the morning, I had heard a faint creaking sound. I assumed it was the cabin settling in the cold. Now I think it was someone shifting their weight on the closet floor, 6 feet from my head. The officer also checked the rest of the cabin. He found a window in the back that had been left unlocked, not broken, unlocked, like someone had opened it from the inside at some point and never relatched it. That was probably how they got in and out. The host offered us a full refund and asked us not to leave a review. We left one anyway. I kept it factual. I said someone was living in the closet of the cabin during our stay. The review was removed by Airbnb within 48 hours. Violation of their review policy, apparently. I appealed. It was denied. I still have photos of the sleeping bag and the charger and the water bottle. I look at them sometimes and I try to calculate the distance. 6 feet. That's how far away this person was from us while we slept. 6 feet and a hollow wooden door with no lock. That's all that separated us from someone who had no business being there. And the thing that haunts me most is how quiet they must have been. 8 hours. in a closet, not moving, not coughing, not shifting, not snoring, just lying there in the dark, listening to us breathe, listening to us talk, listening to us fall asleep, patient, still, waiting for us to leave so they could do it all over again with the next guests. My girlfriend hasn't let me book another rental since. I don't argue with her about it. Some lessons you only need to learn once. Those were 3 true Airbnb and rental horror stories. If you made it to the end of this video, I know at least one of these is going to stick with you tonight. Drop a comment and tell me which one. And if you've had your own nightmare experience with a rental property, leave it in the comments. The most disturbing ones get featured in a future video. Subscribe if you haven't. New stories every week. Share this with anyone you know who's about to book a vacation rental. They deserve to know what they might be walking into. Stay safe. Check the closets. And for the love of God, check the smoke detectors.